And it's like, well, hey, if someone comes to you and shows you some stats like we're gonna go through tonight, yeah, we're gonna do some reading, because people need to get this through their heads. Hopefully this gets out on the internet and people hear it too. If someone shows you, hey, you got a dangerous breed, you got a dangerous animal, they're known to do this, and then they just let them off the chain or let them off the hook or they get away or whatever, whatever consequences they get are going to come far short to what God has prescribed here in Deuteronomy. Every now and then they might go to jail or something. And there was a case that just happened that kind of led me to all this, but where were we? We were in Exodus. So, you read Exodus, Exodus 21. Hey, pit bull owners, people have dangerous animals. You need to. That's a serious thing. And you say, oh, I don't know about it. Well, I got this nice long article here from dogsbite.org, which is a very good site, and it's all sourced. We're going to look at a little bit of it, and if you doubt me, I'll leave it right here, and you can come read this article and tell me that what I'm not saying is true tonight. And I've even got personal experience with this stuff. Brother Jerry's not here, but I already asked him, Brother Jerry Rodriguez, if I could share the story before the sermon tonight. He owned a pit bull years ago, and he had this other. Was it Pebbles? Is the little dog, right? Little Pebbles, little sweet little dog. I don't know what the pit bull's name was, but one day he's talking to his neighbor across the street. Am I getting it right? And all of a sudden, Mrs. Rodriguez is out there. Jerry, get over here, because this pit bull's got sweet little Pebbles in a death grip, just shaking it, right? And he goes in there and he gets them separated. And he took the pit bull and held his little face and said, "Are you okay? Did you get any pebbles in your teeth? I'm sorry you're upset." No, he took the dog out back and shot it in the head. I was like, amen. I heard that. I was like, hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's somebody who understands that that's a lethal animal that switched. He's got another dog since then, but 2 dogs, right? One's a pug, and the other one's who knows what, right? But I'll tell you what they all are, puntable, right? Right? But he took it out and you say, well, he shot a dog in the head like that? I'm calling the cops. Hey, he did. He already did. He called them immediately and said, I discharged a weapon in the city limits. Cop came over and said, you did the right thing. And that was it. So there's one instance. My wife, this would probably surprise people, she had a pit bull. When I met her, she had a pit bull. And that dog would be out in the church parking lot in her car. And I remember one time I came to church, because I lived just down the block from it. Not even a 5-minute walk. And I walked through the parking lot and I walked by her car and she was already inside. And the pit bull was in the dog. It's Michigan, people, okay? You can do it there, all right? It was probably all of 50 degrees in the car. Calm down. And I walked by and then just this loud, just barking, claws on the glass, just the slobber and the froth all over the glass. And it was out of nowhere, right? I was like, man, that's a scary dog. But I think what was going on is that dog probably knew I was going to replace it. She's thinking, oh, here's another big dumb animal. That's what she's going to end up with. It was just jealous. But we got this PDF, and look, I'm just going to read some of this. Can you bear with me while I read a little bit? The common definition of pit bull derived their heritage from the butcher's dog, developed through the sport of bull baiting in England, which had progressed to Britain's national pastime by 1500. You say, well, where did pit bulls come from? They didn't come off the ark like that, okay? They were bred over years, hundreds of years, into what they are today. And it started out where they came, where their origins were, they were bred for bull baiting, which is what we would call, blood sport, for fighting. By 1800, and through further selective breeding, the bulldog developed into a compact, muscular dog characterized by tremendous jaw strength. Did you hear what I said? They were bred that way for a very specific reason, to attack and kill other dogs. Due to public outrage, which it seems to have gone by the wayside in America, bull baiting was banned in England 1835. Bulldog breeders and owners then moved to the sport of ratting. Okay, so ratting is now, we can't sick the dogs on each other, but nobody likes rats, right? It's always the ugly animals that never get protected, right? They always protect the dolphin. The tuna can get canned, The tuna's never going to get a show, flipper, flipper, faster than lightning, tuna, tuna. And no, tuna on a cracker is what's going to happen to that guy. So they say, okay, well, we can't sick dogs on each other anymore because people are, against it. The only good thing about that is at least one of them's dead, So they're like, now they're just going to get this thing like, how many rats can they kill in a given amount of time? They start this thing called ratting. To increase agility and quickness and prey drive in the bulldog. Agility, quickness, and prey drive, meaning, aggressiveness, wanting to kill the prey. Ratters crossbreed with terriers. That's where you have the modern-day pit bull terrier. So it wasn't just enough that they had these compact, muscular frames and these giant, muscular jaws that could just, tear things to shred. They're like, we need to make them more agile and more aggressive. That's what you have today. That is where the modern pit bull terrier comes from. And then, of course, they brought him over to America, and in 1884, the American Kennel Club was formed but rejected pit bulls due to their use in dogfighting. So back then, the Kennel Club was like, we're not even going to recognize this breed because of what they're used for. Well, what is dogfighting? We kind of want to know. What does it have to do with pit bulls? Pit bulls are the dog of choice amongst dogmen, individuals who fight their pit bulls against other pit bulls. So if you're a guy who's into this, Michael Vick or anybody like that, and you're into dogfighting, you're not going to go pick out, the Labrador. You're not going to go pick out you're going to get the meanest, toughest dog you can, which is the pit bull, because it's been bred for that purpose. Dogmen consider pit bull terriers, who they commonly call 100% bulldogs, to be the ultimate canine gladiator. That's a scary term right there. Pit bulls were selectively bred for gameness, the ability to finish a fight. A truly game dog will continue fighting on stumps, 2 or more broken legs, and far worse. And that is from a book called The Complete Game Dog by Ed and Chris Farnan or whatever, Farnan. So these guys wrote a book about it, and they're like, the ultimate dog, the ultimate pit bull, the 100% pit bull, the game breed dog. Even if you break its legs, if it loses a leg, it's going to keep fighting. That's what they were going for. And if you've ever seen or witnessed on YouTube or anything, or heard these reports about when these dogs attack, when they latch on, like people beat them with sticks, like nothing short of lethal force will stop them. So I'm going to move through this article a little quicker here, but it says, why do I always read about pit bulls in the news? It's like, well, let's just read it. Since the late 1970s, pit bulls have been used extensively in criminal operations for drug dealers, gang members, and other violent offenders. So it's not just, the guys that are in the sport of, fighting dogs, but it's also the criminal world, that love this breed of dog. The pit bull terrier is the breed of choice for criminals. So it's like, you see somebody walking their pit bull down the street, it's kind of like, wonder what they're into. What are they selling? What are they smuggling? No, they're just an average Joe today. Just the average Joe is just getting the same dog that a hardened criminal would want. And he's not getting, the hardened criminal isn't buying it because it's cool. It's because he brings it with him, to go do their deals and for protection, because they know that dog is aggressive and will attack and kill. This choice is directly linked to the pit bull's selectively bred traits of robust jaw strength, a deadly bite style, tenacity, and a high tolerance to pain. When the Colorado Supreme Court upheld the Denver pit bull ban in 2005, the court set aside characteristics that pit bulls displayed when they attack that differ from other dog breeds. One of these characteristics was their lethal bite. So this is when Denver was making this, the Supreme Court was making this, to uphold this ban or not, people made this argument. And look, that should be your first clue. When it's a breed that it's gone so far that a Supreme Court of some state somewhere is going to actually hear a case on whether or not they should be banned. It's crazy to see. And I'm preaching it because, man, I see them everywhere today. I see them out soul winning all the time. It's all the time. You see these things. It's just people, and because it's cool. It's not cool. They're dangerous animals. One of these characteristics that set the pit bull apart from all these other ones that bite. You say, well, there's other dogs that bite and are aggressive. Yeah, but not like the pit bull. The pit bull stands alone when it comes to the way it bites. Pit bulls inflicted more serious wounds than other breeds. They tend to attack the deep muscles and hold on to shake and cause ripping of tissues. Pit bull attacks were compared to shark attacks. That's what they likened it into a shark attack. Like a great white just latching down on somebody's leg and just taking a whole chunk of it out. That's what they're like. It's similar to that, the way they bite. It's not just this little nip that some dogs do. I mean, everyone's probably been bit by a dog at some point. Well, maybe not. Maybe maybe they, But if you ever have, most dogs, this was a pit bull, most dogs, it's just kind of like, it might break the skin, maybe. They bite real quick and let go, just kind of let you know, hey, I don't want to play right now or whatever. I don't appreciate that. They're just kind of letting you know, this is my food. Get your own. Look, if you ever get bit in that instance, you got bigger issues, right? But I'm just saying, look, no other dog bites like the pit bull. That's what the case that they made here. One of the most powerful examples of a pit bull not letting go occurred in an Ohio courtroom during the Toledo versus Paul Tellings trial. Tellings was convicted of violating the city's of Toledo's pit bull ordinance. Lucas County dog warden Tom Skeldon showed a unique videotape of a tranquilized pit bull hanging from a steel cable. This dog is unconscious. It's been tranquilized, and it's still holding on with its teeth from a steel cable. The dog is essentially unconscious and still does not release its grip. I mean, that's what makes pit bulls completely different than any other dog. You can say, oh, the Doberman or whatever breed. You can say, well, they're aggressive too, but they cannot bite and clamp down like a pit bull can. Do pit bulls bite more than other dogs? Well, it all comes down to numbers. That's kind of a skewed way to look at things. Obviously, in a place like Ohio and Denver or whatever, or any other place, I even believe Portland now, where they've just banned them, or they have very strong restrictions on them, where people just kind of stop owning them. Yeah, obviously they're not going to bite as many people because they're not there. But in places where they don't have anything like this, look, pit bulls lead the nation in dog bites and destructive ones. They attack more than any other dog. This issue isn't the acute damage a pit bull inflicts when it does choose to bite. It's like, well, it doesn't bite as many. Yeah, but when it does, it's not like it's like a shark biting you. The pit bull's hold and shake bite style causes severe bone and muscle damage. Bone damage, often inflicting permanent and disfiguring injuries. Moreover, once a pit bull starts an attack, firearm intervention may be the only way to stop it. And I talked about Sunday, the redneck of Morenci, right? Well, I'm going to introduce to you tonight another character that I ran into in that lovely town, the pit bull of Morenci, right? Do you remember that, Mrs. Madison? I know Varen does. We're out soul winning, and I'm there with Varen, and we're walking, and my daughter's with us, and you even got a photo of it, I think, right? And because Morenci's this weird town where like it's all owned by the mine, and they built houses on the old strip mine. So when you're up and every street is just like you're going down a step in the strip mine. So we're up on the top, and I'm looking down, and there's just this hulked out, just muscular pit bull sitting on a trampoline. Great. In the backyard, right? And you got a picture of it. And what that thing looked like had been hitting the gym hard. Like, it was on a cycle, brother. You know what I mean? Like, there was needles somewhere, it's juicing. It looked mean. And it's just all hulked out, and I'm like, man, what a scary dog. And I'm like, that's great. It's in a yard with a trampoline. It means it's with kids, right? And the thing about Morenci is like all the fences are about that tall around the houses. They're that tall. So we walked by that house, and I think you even mentioned, I don't know exactly how the story goes, and Mrs. Madison says, we did knock that door. I'm like, yeah, don't knock that door. And then me and Varen and I, we got to the end of the cul-de-sac, turned around, and I'm just talking to Varen, and then I look up, and that dog has jumped the fence and is just standing from me to that chair away. It's just standing there, looking back and forth, and I instantly went back like this and had my hand on my gun. And looking back on it, sometimes I think maybe I should have just shot it right there on site, no questions asked. It's out of its yard. It's a known breed, it's jacked, you know, and it's not like coming over to play. It's like checking us out, right? And we both just freeze, you know. And I would feel terrible if I found out later that very dog attacked some kid or somebody on that street. I'd be like, man, why didn't I shoot it when I had the chance? And we just kind of froze. You know, my daughter had gotten away, and she was over with Mrs. Madison. I think they went in the van or something like that. They were out of harm's way at that point. But Varen, I think he started whistling at it, right? He's like, I can't whistle, my mouth is dry. I'm kind of thinking, Varen, don't do that. And I don't know how the conflict ended, you know. Maybe it walked away, or I think we just kind of walked around and got away. But I did not take my hand off my gun for a minute. You know, so there's another personal experience that I've had with these lovely animals. And I'll tell you what, I've run into some dogs out soul winning. And I've never had a dog like that, or, you know, make my hair stand on end and get my heart pumping and get me just like scared of what was going to happen next, like that dog did. And I've got some stories. I remember we went out to the White River, the White Mountain Apache Reservation out there near I think it's White River or East Fork or something like that. And you want to talk about a reservation with res dogs. These dogs plot out there. I was in the van, and I'm driving, and I'm looking for, you know, to pick up a team. And there's this little white dog, right? And all the grasses were tall, and he just comes kind of prancing out, and he stops in the middle of the road and makes the van come to a stop. And as soon as the van stops, I kid you not, this other dog just lunges out of the grass and chases, and is like lunging at the tire. And the other white one kind of goes out of the way. I was like, man, that's weird. I was like, did they stage that? Like, are they like, you know, it's like, clever girl, you know? Are they like plotting? Are they planning, you know? And then I think they were, because I came back just a few minutes later, exact same thing happened again. I kid you not. I kid you not. And I thought, boy, it'd be a public service for somebody to just come up here and just take, and the kids are like riding by on bikes, and this just happened to a van. These dogs are like plotting how to attack vehicles. I'm like, boy, somebody could just come out here with a gun and just start shooting them, and just, people would probably be like, thank you, you know? And I've had some other run-ins with dogs, but boy, I tell you, that one in Morenci, that was frightening. You know, and people say, well, you're giving pit bulls, you just don't understand. You know, you're giving them a bad name. You know, you're paying a bad, you're casting them in a bad light. You're just making them look bad. They're really not that bad. And that's what you always hear from people that own pit bulls. That's always the response to the sermon like this. Well, but not my pit bull. My pit bull will just lick you to death, right? Who's ever heard that? Yeah, lots of hands. No, my pit bull would only lick you to death. To understand the experience of owning a negatively perceived dog, researchers found that the owners of outlawed dog breeds directly feel the stigma targeted at their breed. So it's not like people are owning a pit bull like, and not knowing what it is they're walking around. They know that there's a stigma attached to it. And then it says, and they resort to various tactics to lessen that stigma. One of the tactics include attempts to counterbalance the pit bull's menacing appearance and physical power with overwhelming affectionate behavior, such as, my dog will only lick you to death. But again, I go back to my argument that I made earlier. These people that have sweet little pit bulls, I mean, well, ask the Rodriguezes. Did they go did they went looking for that pit bull that he had to put down in his backyard? Did they go looking for this? Will this one attack my dog one day? Because that's really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something that'll attack another, you know, that will just, one day a switch will just flip in its brain, and it'll just become a menace to everybody in the house. Is this that dog? Because that's what I'm looking for. You see what I'm saying? Nobody goes looking for that breed, but that's what happens in every one of these instances. Yeah, it's a sweet little lick-you-to-death dog today, and then the next day, just like that, it's a whole nother animal. Yeah. So the practical and moral question is, why is pit bull dog aggression tolerated at all? Because then they'll say, well, no, my dog's only aggressive towards other dogs and other, domesticated animals. So what? Why should we tolerate it at all? And it's just not the fact. Every year, one or more Americans suffer death due to pit bull dog aggression. It's not even the dogs being aggressive towards the owner or another human. It's they're aggressive towards another dog. And in this instance, it was two pit bulls, two ladies out walking their pit bulls, and they got aggressive towards one another. You know, they flashed back in their genetic makeup to the days of, pit bull fighting when they were bred. and every year people die from it, including owners like Mitchell, I can't say her last name, and Rita Woodward, who died while attempting to break up a fight between their pit bulls. So their pit bulls are going at it, and they're trying to get them to break them up. The pit bulls turned on them. Secondly, far too many beloved companions and pets and domesticated animals suffer a violent death by the powerful jaws of pit bull terriers each year. In some instances, these attacks involve pit bulls tearing through screen doors of private homes in a home invasion to kill the pet living inside. It's not just your pets. There's been instances where they go across the street and tear through another door to get the pet inside and kill it. I mean, how many breeds do that? I don't remember seeing that on Lassie. You know, what's that, girl? You want to go across the street and kill another dog? Lassie, what's all that blood all over your mane and your face? Did something happen to Mom again? Is she in a cougar trap? No, Lassie went next door and, killed somebody's gerbils or something. But that's what pit bulls do. There's been instances, it's documented, where they just get out, cross the street, they know where that other dog is. It's been eyeing them, walking. That dog gets to go for a walk every day, and I'm stuck in this cage. If I ever get out, I'll show him what's up. Why do we tolerate these animals in our society? And these words have been uttered across this pulpit before, and I'll repeat them again. If there was a button you could push to kill every single pit bull right now, I would push it. And I'd go to sleep like a baby tonight. Over 900 U.S. cities and nearly all privatized military housing, the U.S. Army, U.S. Marine Corps, and U.S. Air Force. And many public housing authorities have breed-specific restrictions. Such measures often include mandatory sterilization, liability insurance, and strict containment rules. So even the government and these other public institutions understand what you're dealing with when you're dealing with a pit bull. And look, I know I've gone long tonight, and there's just a whole nother stack of stats about the percentages, the cost, and just so on and so forth. Read it sometime, and it'll blow your mind about these animals, this breed of dog particularly. And I'm preaching this, I don't know that anybody in the room is upset or is necessarily gone to the point where, they're devaluing human life. They prefer some animal above a human being. But I'm telling you, I'm preaching this because this mentality is out there. When it comes to man versus beast, people will pick beast. They'll say, nope, beast is better than man. And I've seen that. You've probably all seen bumper stickers, these stupid bumper stickers that just people go out and just tell everybody what a despicable person they are, and what their take on humanity is. My dog makes me happy. You, not so much. Well, great. Pro-life, adopt a shelter dog. These are bumper stickers you can go get. I looked them up. Pro-life, adopt a shelter dog. That's cute. To just kind of take a swipe at abortion. Oh, you value human life, you value life. Let's just put the life of a dog on par with the unborn. That's where you're at in this society. That's why sermons like this have to be preached. Right. It's not just my hobby horse, although coincidentally it is also. But hey, that's the type of thing that's out there. How about this one? Dog mom. Dog mom. Oh, my babies are all dogs. That's not a baby. That's not a child. That's nowhere near anything like a child. In some ways, I wish it were. I wish children were a little bit more like a dog sometimes. You know what I mean? Come, and they just come. You tell it once, They're always just eager to please, right? I'm kidding. How about this coffee cup? This is one I saw. How would you like to wake up? The best part of waking up is some slanderous thing about humans on your cup, right? Dogs, because people are the worst. That's how I want to start my way. Just think about how bad people are, how much better dogs are. And what kind of inspired all this is somebody, I believe it was Brother Ariola, he commented on a story of like a 3-year-old girl that was just mauled recently in Texas by a pit bull. And I'm like, here we go. And I got on there, I got in the comments, I was like, how far down this thread of comments will I have to go before I hear somebody, apologizing or feeling sorry for the dog. It was 3. 3 comments in. I feel real sorry for that girl and for the dog. I don't feel sorry for that dog at all. How could you even say that? And then look, folks, and I thought about reading these comments, but they're just comment after another after another. Now, fortunately, it seems like when I see these articles now, there are more people saying, yeah, nuts to the dog, poor little girl. So maybe we're having an effect out there. People are waking up a little bit. But just these dumb comments on this article. And this whole story is just tragic. This little 3-year-old girl, she's alive, thankfully. This lady is at a place where kids are known to congregate, and she brings her dog there, her pit bull, because it was a service dog, and she brings it in there, and it just lunges on this little 3-year-old girl. Her face is just permanently disfigured. She has to get plastic surgery. And even this article, it was like the dog. It didn't want to say pit bull. And then it had the hyperlinks in the text that you had to click on to find out, the related stories. It was like a follow-up story. And you had to go 2 or 3 stories back to find out, oh, it was a pit bull. They probably are getting so sick and tired of the blow. I bet you some pro pit bull people called to complain, your article, and they're just like, oh, let's not affect the pit bull. Forget the fact that a little girl just got mauled. You had to go back and read that, and you read the story. This is what happened. This lady, this dog attacks this little girl. She yanks the dog off and just starts running away with the dog, which should instantly tell you that she knew that she was in trouble. She's sitting in a county jail right now, and the dog is going to be euthanized, thankfully. And then the dad's running after her, and the lady takes her mask off and says, it was your kid's fault. Gets in her car and drives off. This is where we're at. This is where people are in this country. That's despicable. Yeah, but maybe there is some truth to that coffee cup. People are the worst. That is pretty bad. That's a despicable attitude to have. Well, I just don't think we should advocate, killing dogs, euthanizing, and going. Well, let's just remember that God destroyed animals en masse multiple times. The flood. I asked my wife if I still had my bus route. I was a bus captain. I had this, the Noah's flood tie. When you're in junior church and all these, and the kid stories about Noah's flood. It's always like a cute little boat with, the giraffe's head poking out, smiling. Noah's out there just kind of jigging the ride. And it's like, I was going to joke about that tie. If it were accurate, there'd be bodies floating. But everyone forgets, God killed everybody, including all the animals, other than the ones that were on the ark. He's all, the Old Testament sacrifices, just every day, just butchering animals. Jesus, when he sent released the demoniac of Gadara from the legion and sent him into the swine, and they just went running off a cliff. Another one I was thinking about, because a lot of people get really upset about when they see bad things happen to an animal. And yet courts have to debate today whether or not that dog should be euthanized after it mauled a kid. Or maybe it should be put up for rehabilitation. It should go back into a pound, someone will adopt it. This is a dog that attacked somebody else, some other else's kid, but we've corrected it, we've trained it, we've loved it, That's where we're at. But people will see other things happen to animals and get all aghast about it. I remember it was on my Facebook feed. Somebody showed a picture of the horrors of the egg industry. And male chicks can't give eggs. So when they hatch and they can't lay eggs, you only need so many male chicks around you, right? You only need so many roosters. So you know what they do with them? They kill them. And it ain't pretty how they do it. They didn't show the whole process, but it basically ends like this. There's a conveyor belt that comes up, and it's just all the broken eggs, and all the little chicks just chirping, not really know what's going on. And then it's just off the conveyor belt and just into this, I'm not even kidding you, like a blender. It's just one of these machines, just shh, and they just instantly are just pulverized. And it's just little chick guts and eggshells everywhere. And people are can't believe it. The horrors of the egg industry. All these little baby chicks, why do they take them down to Tractor Supply Company? Someone could have taken them home and raised little chickens. And then giving them away later, because there's a lot of people that used to have chickens, right? Everyone tries that once. I think we'll get our own chickens, have our own eggs, and then a year into it, either they've been eaten by wild animals, or they get sick of cleaning up after and they get rid of them. It's let's just buy our eggs. If you want to buy eggs, look, you're contributing to that. Who here had eggs this morning? Nice omelet? You wicked, despicable person. How dare you? What about the little baby chick, the little boy baby chick? Just send him to the blender. Just every day. I tried to find out how many die. It's like, well, that's cool. How many die? And look, I wasn't looking at it like, yeah. It was hard to look at. But it wasn't like, oh. I found a new calling in life. And say, enough of the ministry. I've got to save these little chickens. It didn't affect me like that. It's hard to look at, I admit. But, that's the reality of the food industry. Go look at it. Go YouTube slaughterhouse sometime and see what, then have a burger. And I try to look up how many of these chicks die in this industry. How many of them are just pulverized? And that you can't find it. Like billions of chickens are killed around this world. Like I don't know. The numbers are astounding. And people get all upset about that, don't they? But that's a society we're living in. Man versus beast. We feel worse about the beast than we do the man. And then I was like, well, it got me thinking like, wow, speaking of butchering the young, at least those little chicks had a chance to get their first breath. At least they had a chance to see the light of day for a moment and know what it was like to be alive. I mean, people get all upset about that, but what about the abortion mills all around the globe, in this country especially? And then the pro-death crowd, they measure these stats. I threw a lot of stats out. You know how they measure their stats when it comes to abortion? By laws that are passed. You go on their sites, and it's just like, this country's got these laws and this law, and that's how they measure it. They don't measure their success by how many babies they're killing. They wouldn't think about that. They just want to measure it by, the progressive laws that have been passed when it comes to reproductive rights. They have all these nice terms. In the pro-life, how do we measure it? Well, we measure it like with stats, with numbers, right? And very quickly, the abortion rate was 11.3 abortions per 1,000 women aged 15 to 44. And the abortion ratio is 189 abortions per 1,000 live births. And this is from a CDC report in 2018. I mean, what number is going to take for make people just step back and go, wow, we're a wicked country. And God doesn't just, let people slide on that. God is going to hold this country accountable for all that. God's not looking down going, the poor baby chicks, the poor euthanized pit bull. He's seeing innocent blood being shed. He's seeing people being harmed. He's seeing the abortion mills. And he is going to punish man. Go to Romans chapter 1. Actually, you know what? I'll just wrap up. I've gone too long telling all these stories and everything. But look, you can kind of see why God might, it's kind of ironic that God is going to punish man with beast one day, like we read in Revelation, isn't it? It's kind of ironic that, people want to value beasts above human life. And then later God's going to say, oh, that beast you valued so much more than human life, that's what's going to take some of these people out. And, it's kind of a sobering way to end the sermon, but, that's where we are today in the society, is that people have just become so brainwashed and just so, duped into thinking that, we just crawled out of some primordial ooze and billions of years ago. There's really no point to life. There's no value. And then they get bitter and angry and hopeless. And then they start to value beasts, dogs, animals above human life. And then you can kind of just see how that turns into what it's turned into, these abortion mills. And people are more upset about little chickens than they are about the unborn. But that should never be so among God's people. We should always remember that, God values life above any animal. God values one human life above any multitude of animals. You can never counterbalance the scale. It's always going to be human. Well, it'd be this way: human life. It weighs more with God than you could put one human over here and all the animals of the world, and it wouldn't make that scale budge one bit. So let's go ahead and pray.